everything that goes to the space station comes through this facility right here.
We
They
are
renamed
back.
it the Space Systems Processing
Phone had
Facility.
some weird
I'm the
issues,
old
so
school guy. I
whatever.
like the space station. Okay.
Live stream number 2. All you missed was
Now we're
the
heading out toward the
new
toward the
NASA
Cape.
Space
Yeah, the first launch was on
Command
my
Center,
birthday.
I think.
Now,
Swamp water.
when we launched Alan Shepard during the Mercury program, all right, this was a suborbital flight. Now we're going to get our guys up into orbit. The first American to orbit the Earth was John Glenn. All right. His mission was in February of 1962. His mission lasted a total of 5 hours. He did 3 complete orbits of the Earth. Okay.
3 complete orbits. Wow.
In the early days of the program, we were learning everything as we went. So, one of John's task of eating space. All right. Now he gets the command from Mission Control. Okay, John, eat your applesauce. So he pulls out that little tube. He was able to consume the applesauce. Hey, we got a space program. Okay. That was the mission of Mercury, to get us up into orbit and make sure that we could function like regular people. You know what I mean? Now, let's jump ahead to Gemini. Gemini was the bridge between Mercury and the Apollo mission. Major questions had to be answered. Could we work inside the spacecraft? Can we stay in space for a long amount of time? Can we actually rendezvous in orbit? And then can we dock in orbit? So, Gemini 4, astronaut Ed White was the first American to walk in space. Now what you see out here, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Cape. I'll be talking about that in just a minute. Our active launch pads are right over here. So we can walk in space. We launched Gemini 7. Their mission was to last 2 weeks, long duration space flight. Now they're in a capsule no bigger than a Volkswagen Beetle, sitting pretty much just as you are here, doing all the things. Your imagination, I'm not going there. Okay. So they're up there for 2 weeks. Now we launched Gemini 6. See if we can rendezvous. Yep. 6 chases down. 7, they actually rendezvous in space. At one point, the 2 spacecraft were about a foot apart. They were waving to each other through the windows. Okay, now we have to dock in space.
Welcome.
Now, when you came into the visitor center today, the rocket garden that was on your left-hand side, there's an Atlas Agena rocket in our garden there. And on top, the satellite's called Agena. Now, that was fitted with a docking mechanism. So they launch Atlas Agena, they put the satellite in orbit. Now we launch Gemini 8.
Hello.
Commander of Gemini 8, I don't know, you might remember this guy. His name was Neil Armstrong. Anybody remember him? Uh-huh. There you go. Okay. His compadre was...
do you guys remember Neil Armstrong?
Both of those guys would later go on to command missions to the moon. So they get up into orbit. They chase down the Agena while in orbit, and they actually dock in space with the Agena. Okay? That's good. This is all right. So, they've docked with the Agena. Okay, we completed the mission. We docked in space. Uh-oh. We got a problem. The spacecraft starts to tumble.
Uh-oh.
Now, keeping in mind that Neil and these guys are fighter pilots, test pilots. It takes a lot to get these guys upset. Okay. All right, we're tumbling. Okay, work the problem. See if we can figure this out. All right, let's jettison Agena, see if that's causing the problem. So they jettisoned Agena. Nope, problem even got worse.
Oh, it got worse. That's not good.
What happened was one of the maneuvering thrusters on the capsule was stuck in the open position. And it was spinning the capsule. At one point, they were spinning at 1 revolution per second. They were on the verge of blacking out.
That's not good.
Again, work the problem, guys. They shut everything. They shut everything off. Boarded the mission right then and there. Okay, they used the RCS Direct. That's Reaction Control System Direct. Basically a manual control. They completed the first emergency landing of the space program, and that was during Gemini 8. So, we've answered those 4 questions. Yep, we can do all these things. Now let's move on to Apollo. Okay. When I talk about the space program, I tell the whole story, the good and the bad. So we're ready for Apollo 1. Now look out the right side of the bus, ladies and gentlemen. See that big comm tower right there, that big communications tower? Just to the right of that,
See it?
back a little bit,
That's right.
is Launch Complex 34.
There. I think.
Anybody see the movie Armageddon with Bruce Willis? Okay, there's a scene in that movie where he's talking
It
to his
is.
daughter before they launch out to the asteroid.
We are in
Okay.
Florida.
That was filmed at Launch Complex 34. All those concrete buildings that you see, structures, that's LC-34. Now, it's January 27th
Cool,
of
cool.
1967. We've got a Saturn 1B rocket. Okay, when you came in, you're looking at Rocket Garden, that big rocket that's
Ah.
laying horizontally, that's a
Hey, well,
Saturn
now you
1B,
do.
the little brother of the Saturn V that brought us to the moon. So we've got a Saturn 1B on the pad. We have a full complement of astronauts in the command module. Okay, Mercury we had 1 astronaut, Gemini we had 2, Apollo we had 3. So we've got a full complement. We're getting ready for Apollo 1. The atmosphere in the command module was 100% oxygen. There was a spark in the command module, it started a fire that burned so intensely. From the time the astronauts set fire until the command module actually exploded was 17 seconds. We lost the crew
Well, that's
in
not
17 seconds. 3 astronauts. That crew consisted of the commander, astronaut Gus Grissom, second American to fly in space. Astronaut Ed White, the first American to walk in space. And rookie astronaut Roger Chapman. We lost all 3 that day. Shortly thereafter, NASA shuts down the Apollo program for almost 2 years.
2 years. Wow, that's a long time.
They made 1,300 upgrades to the command module alone, and when they thought they were ready, it's October 11th of 1968. Okay. Same Launch Complex 34, Saturn 1B rocket, full complement of astronauts in the command module. The commander of Apollo 7 was astronaut Wally Schirra. He was one of the original 7 Mercury astronauts. He was the only one of the 7 to fly in all 3 programs, Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo. So he was the commander of Apollo 7. Successful launch, we get into orbit. Now, the Saturn 1B rocket was made strictly for orbital missions. It was not able to get us to the moon. That was the job of the Saturn V. So,
Welcome.
Apollo 7 is we complete them. It was strictly a test to test out our new command module. Successful mission. Now, let's jump forward to December 21st of 1968.
Oh,
We're
hello.
launching our first mission to the moon. Okay. Saturn V rocket out on Launch Complex 39A over on the Cape Kennedy Space Center. That was December 21st. That crew was Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, Bill Anders. Borman and Lovell, by the way, with his crew, that crewed Apollo 7. They were up there for 2 weeks together, so there was no problem with them going to the moon for a couple of days. Okay. So we launched Apollo 8, strictly an orbital mission around the moon. Everybody remember that iconic photograph, Earthrise? Okay. That photograph was taken during the Apollo 8 mission. He returned successfully, so now we're ready for the Apollo program. And we'll continue this story a little bit later. So let's talk about what we're seeing out here, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, the Cape. Okay?
The Cape.
From all the way over there, that big white building there, all the way across the front, down the side, all the way over to that big white building. This is all the Cape. This is where all the launches took place when they were still building this Kennedy Space Center. That all the way over is the Port Canaveral where the cruise ships come in. Okay, now, this is a multi-active, multi-user spaceport. And what do I mean by that? Okay, in addition to NASA, we have Blue Origin, we also have SpaceX, we have United Launch Alliance, which is a partnership between Boeing and Lockheed Martin, and some smaller ones. All these companies are leasing facilities here on our spaceport. We're going to call it the spaceport, the Kennedy Space Center and the Cape. We're going to call this our spaceport. Again, it's an active spaceport now. There have been any number of occasions where our tours have had to pull off the road so some components of the space can get by. They have the right of way, guys. But we got to be flexible. Okay, so this is the Cape. Now let's look right out the right-hand side. Follow the road down, and just to the left of the road, that tower right there. Okay, that's LC-36. This is being leased by Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin. This is where they launched the New Glenn rocket from a couple of weeks ago. And like I said, okay, the launch was good. I saw it was good. The launch was good. But Blue Origin, they want to bring back their booster rockets similar to the way that SpaceX does and land on a drone ship out in the ocean. The launch was fantastic. Now we got to bring the booster back. Well, we kind of missed the boat, okay? But
They missed the boat.
we have to give Blue Origin, we got to cut them some slack, guys, okay? It took SpaceX 19 attempts to land their first booster, okay? So we're going to cut Blue Origin a little bit of slack. So they're currently building their next New Glenn rocket. Will launch sometime this spring, and we're going to be sending 2 satellites
Hello,
to Mars,
welcome.
and that's this spring sometime. We don't have an exact date just yet. Okay, big comm tower right there, just to the right of that, and back toward the ocean, way back there, are our 2 landing zones, LZ1, LZ2.
I don't know if I can know where.
When SpaceX brings their booster rockets back, this is where they land, if they're landing here at the Cape. Sometimes they're landing out on the drone ships, and today, our 2 launches today, will be landing on drone ships out in the ocean. Okay, so those are the 2 LZs. Okay, Ken.
Off again.
Okay, keep looking out the right side. Okay, this building, this white building with the black structure in the front. Okay, that is Launch Complex 37. Right. This is being leased by United Launch Alliance.
Right there.
The last launch that went out at 37 was a Delta IV Heavy that launched last spring. That rocket has since been retired.
Sorry, keep getting the
United
camera out
Launch
of
Alliance
motion.
is trying to determine
out of
what they want to
focus.
do with this launch complex right now. The neat thing about this pad is this. Okay, see the building as it sits right now? It's sitting right over the launch pad. So they build the rocket on the pad. When it's ready to launch, the whole building moves back. The whole building. Just picture that whole thing just moving back. It's on rails. Okay. They launch. Move the building back into place. You can assemble your next rocket. Okay. So that's LC-37. Again, United Launch Alliance. Okay, Ken. Okay, now this next launch. Okay, look at that brown building right there. Just to the right of that, you'll see the lightning towers. There's a launch tower right in the center of those towers. There is a Falcon 9 rocket on the pad right now. This is going to launch this afternoon at 3:52 if they haven't booked it. But this is where they're going to be launching that launch from this afternoon. Okay, this is a Starlink launch, and they will be recovering that booster again on one of the drone ships out in the ocean. So this is LC-40 being leased by SpaceX. Okay, now, the launch last week, they launched from here. Now remember, and I was very fortunate. I had my tour right here. So we were able to watch the launch go right out of the pad. We're 3.9 miles away. You can't get any closer than this, okay? This is the best spot on the whole Kennedy Space Center. So a launch from there. 8 minutes later, the booster lands over at LZ1. Okay? And you can watch it come down. And all of a sudden you get that big bam, you get that sonic boom. It was a hoot. Everybody just it was a hoot. Okay. But that's LC-40. That's SpaceX. Okay. All right, we also have one more active pad out here. And, okay, you can see it right here. That big white building with the launch, with the lightning towers to the left. That is LC-41. That is being leased by United Launch Alliance. Again, same people who are leasing 37. United Launch Alliance. Okay, everybody remember the Boeing Starliner that came back empty? Uh-huh. Yeah, okay. They had some issues with Starliner, right? Okay. That launched
Just
out
a
of
few issues.
LC-41 back in June on an Atlas V rocket. Went up to the space station. they were helium leaks. Some of the maneuvering thrusters weren't working properly. They determined they're going to bring it back empty. And they left their two astronauts on the International Space Station, Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore. Those are the two astronauts who came home a couple of days, not too long ago. Okay. SpaceX went up and get them on one of their Crew Dragon. So that's LC-41. Now, over the years, there have been 48 launch complexes built out here. Currently, there are 4 active ones. Okay, we've just listed them. 36, 37, 40, and 41. The other 2 of that 6 are Launch Complex 39A, which is on the Kennedy Space Center, and Complex 39B. Now, those are the only 2 launch pads on all of the Kennedy Space Center, just the 2. Built back in the 60s, they were built identically to support the Saturn V rocket. Now, over the years, they have been modified to support the different missions that were going out of each of these facilities. Now, the one that's going to launch tonight at 9:46 is going out of 39A. That's going on a Falcon 9 rocket, the Crew Dragon called Resilience. This will be the 4th mission for Resilience, the Dragon crew capsule. Okay, so that's 39A and 39B. Now, 39A is being leased by SpaceX. They've got a 20-year lease out there. 39, and we're going to be over there shortly. 39B is the NASA facility. That's where we're launching Artemis from. Okay. Alrighty, now, this waterway that you see out here, this is the Banana River. Why do they call it the Banana River? Well, if you look at it from space, it looks like a big banana. Okay. Everything that had to be barged here, for example, the second stage of the Saturn V rocket, built out in California by North American Aviation, they barged it here from California. Had to go all the way down the West Coast, down to the Panama Canal, through the canal, all the way up here to Florida, right down here through the Banana River, all the way over to the Turn Basin by the VAB, and that's going to be our first stop, right over there, guys, by the VAB. So everything that had to be barged here came right down the Banana River. Also, the big external fuel tank on the space shuttle, yep, came right down this way, right under that drawbridge that we just crossed over. Now, again, keep your eyes on the waterways, guys. Hopefully we'll see some good wildlife out here. Okay, now, here's a good trivia question for you. Everybody, okay, the 2 launches that are going to be going off today, they're going to be landing on drone ships out in the ocean. Does anybody know the names of those drone ships out in the ocean? Anybody know the names? Okay. The one that's going out of LC-40, that's going to land on just read the instructions. Okay. The one going out of 39A tonight will come back and land on a shortfall of gravitas. All right. Now, SpaceX has 3. The other one is stationed down in California. When they launch out of Vandenberg, and they land on a drone ship out there, that one is called, Of Course I Still Love You. Okay. So those are the 3 drone ships that SpaceX operates. Now, remember I told you Blue Origin, they want to land there. Boosters on a drone ship also. All right. Their drone ship is called Jacqueline, after Jeff Bezos' mother. Okay. That's what the trivia question, okay? Now, okay, keep your eyes open, guys. We're going to see something, we hope, today. It's good weather. Everybody out there sunning, the alligators sunning themselves. Alrighty, now, we're coming back to the industrial area. That space station processing facility is going to be on our left-hand side. Okay, space station. Before that was built, let's go all the way back to the Apollo days. Where this facility now stands, there used to be a test track there. This is where the Apollo astronauts would learn how to drive the lunar rover, the electric golf cart that we took to the moon. Yeah, this is where they learned how to drive it. All right, so that's the space station processing facility. It's going to be on our left-hand side right over here. Now, again, everything that goes to the space station comes through this facility. It's got 2 great big, what they call high bays. big enough to handle any component that goes to the space station. Now, the components of the space station were designed to fit into the payload bay of the space shuttles. And all of that came through these two bays right here. Now, each of these bays is kept at a constant 54 degrees. Super clean. You gotta wear those moon suits and stuff to work in here, okay? Okay. Also, in our facility here, we have banquet facilities there. We've got commercial kitchens. We've got conference rooms. All kind of neat stuff happening in this building. And again, supported by 15 different countries to the space station. So this is the processing facility for the space station. Okay, now, talking about the ONC, the Operations and Checkout Facility. Built in 1964, was built to build and test components for the Apollo program. And you can see it has one high bay, and currently in there is the Orion capsule for Artemis. But getting back to the Apollo program, they tested the command module, the service module, everything was tested in here. It actually is two buildings. The one in the front was just for the administrative stuff. All the neat stuff happened in the building behind it. In that building back there on the third floor, they have crew quarters for the astronauts where they would quarantine for up to 2 weeks before their missions, just to make sure that they didn't get sick while they were in space. Next to that is the suit-up room where they would put on their spacesuits. Okay. Once they got ready to go, come down the elevator, jump into the Astro van, come right out here and onto the road that we're on now, and we will be traveling on the same road that the astronauts took out to the launch pads out there. Now, the Operations and Checkout Facility was renamed the Neil Armstrong ONC building shortly after Neil passed in 2013. They renamed it on the 45th anniversary of the first moon landing, and that was in July of 2014. Also, the ONC is on the National Registry of Historic Buildings, and that was done in January of 2000. So that is a historic building. Okay, now, as we come up a little bit farther, the building on our right-hand side is our communication site. It's got that big dish in the front, big antennas in the back. All the comms that go through the Kennedy Space Center here and around the world go through this facility right here. Now, I want you to notice one thing when we get up close, okay? There's a fence that goes around the facility. I want you to take note when we get up here. Okay? Everybody look at the fence. Yeah, this is a big dish right here, big towers in the back. Okay, everybody see the fence?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything unusual about that fence?
It's
The top angles outward. Why is that, guys?
so people can't climb it.
That's an alligator fence. Okay? Alligators have been known to cross a 6-foot-high chain link fence by angling the alligators can't get over it. Notice the other facilities we go to
That's funny.
will have similar fences around them. Okay, now, Ken's going to be bringing us down onto the Kennedy Parkway. And if you look straight out the front of the bus, you're going to get a good view of the VAB, the Vehicle
There it
Assembly
is. I
Building.
can't. Unfortunately, I can't zoom
From where,
in.
look straight out, guys. That's
But-
the VAB. From where we are right now, we are still 5 miles away. Still. The VAB is the largest single-story building in the world. Stands 526 feet tall. Floor area alone covers 8 acres. Any baseball fans in here? Okay. You could put Yankee Stadium on the roof and still have room for parking. That's how big it is. All right. Now,
Yeah, that's a
completed
big
in
building.
1966, took 4 years to build.
How's the audio
Now,
on this?
they knew they were
Anyone?
going to have to handle some serious weight
Just wondering.
when they built this thing. And again, okay, this is strictly a NASA facility. All the private guys do their own thing. This is a NASA facility.
Is it good, bad, maybe?
Continue in a minute. Everybody look to the left, guys. This is the Hangar X complex. This is SpaceX facility right here. When the boosters come back, this is where they come back to be processed for their next flight. And sometimes we get a booster that's sitting outside. I don't see any today. Anyway, this is where they come back to be processed.
That's cool.
The current record for flight of a booster is 26. Okay. They got a booster that's flown 26 times. The one that's going out of 40 today, this will be its 17th flight. The one going out of 39A, this will be its 4th flight. Okay, now, getting back to the VAB. Knowing that they had to have serious weight going on here, they put down 4,225 pilings, each 164 feet long. Bedrock is 160 feet down. They drilled 4 feet into the bedrock, 4,225 pilings. Around that, they poured 30,000 cubic yards of concrete. That was just for the foundation. The whole building, the interior structure, the outside panels, the doors, they needed 95,590 tons of steel in order to build the facility. All right. Now, if you look at the VAB, see that American flag on there? That is the largest hand-painted American flag in the world. Hand-painted. Measures 209 feet by 110 feet. The blue field is the size of an NBA basketball court. The stars are 6 feet across. To give you some idea how big that is. All right, now. Okay, now, notice like that this is a NASA facility only. SpaceX, Blue Origin, United Launch Alliance, all those guys do their own thing. Just NASA uses this facility. And we're currently building Artemis II inside the VAB. Now, the VAB has a very distinguished history as a 12 Apollo missions were assembled here. 4 Skylab missions were assembled here. The Apollo-Soyuz mission that launched in '75, Soyuz rendezvoused in space and docked in space, and the 2 astronauts, the American and the Russian, did that handshake. That was built here. All 135 space shuttle missions were assembled in the VAB. And most recently, Artemis I, which launched in November of 2022, was assembled here. Now, Artemis II, like I said, is currently being assembled in the VAB. Now, looking at the building itself, okay, we're on the west side, and you can see we have this big doors in the front. Those are those gray sections on the side of the building. Those are doors. Okay, each one of those doors is in front of what they call a high bay, and there are 4 high bays in the VAB. We have doors 2 and 4 on this side, and 1 and 3 are on the east side. These doors are the largest doors in the world. They stand 456 feet tall. Right? Largest doors in the world. Now you'll notice once we get up a little closer, on the bottom section opens like sliders do, okay, horizontally. But from there up, you'll notice the sections, each section will go up behind the one above it, and then that sequence will carry on until we get the doors fully opened.
Wow,
okay.
That's a big building.
Now, when they're fully closed,
largest hand-painted American
if you want to
flag
get
in the
them
world.
fully open, it would take 45 minutes. Again, these are the largest doors in the world, and we've got 4 of them. Okay.
45 minutes.
So,
Wow.
now if you notice these doors, okay, again, this side, high bay number 2 and high bay number 4. On the other side is high bay 1 and 3. This is where they assembled the rockets back in the Apollo space shuttle days. Okay. So Artemis 2 is in here right now.
Artemis 2 is right in there right now.
Now we're going to get a better view once we get around a little bit. But that big crane over there, that's where they're building the Artemis Tower. And we'll get a better shot of it once we get past the VAB here. The components that we were assembling out of the industrial area, this is where they bring them to the assembly area over here. Okay. Now you get a good look at the VAB. Okay, look to your left, guys. There's a lower bay right here with the name Artemis on it. Here's your quiz. Here's a quiz. Where do we get the name Artemis from? Anybody? Greek mythology. Okay? Artemis is the twin sister of Apollo. Okay? Apollo brought us to the moon. Artemis will be bringing us back. So this low bay right here, all components for the Artemis program come in this bay here, processed, and then will be assembled onto Artemis 2. Okay, so now we're coming up to our first stop, ladies and gentlemen. This is called the press site. All right, now, I know nobody in here is old enough to remember a guy named Walter Cronkite. Right? Nobody remembers him, right? Okay. Oh, we got an osprey nest right here, guys. There's an osprey in the nest right here. There we go. Right here. Yeah, there you go. So, during the Apollo program, Walter was broadcasting from a facility right over here. It says CBS News on it. This is where he was broadcasting from. And you can see we've got some of the news agencies up here as we speak, getting ready for tonight's launch. There it is right there, CBS News. This is where Walter was broadcasting from. Now, if you look straight ahead to the flag right there, to the right of the flag on the ground there, that is our official countdown clock. All right, this is the new one. All right, this has got all the fancy bells and whistles in it. Okay, all the electronic stuff. The original one, okay, when you came into the park today, did you see the countdown clock? That's the original that was out here when Walter was broadcasting. That one is the original one. This is the new fancy one. Okay. So, this is the turn basin. Again, when everything was barged in here, this is the turn basin where they would dock right over here and then bring their components into the VAB. Now, this is our first stop, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be here for a few minutes. All right. Have snacks, bring them with you outside. Now, when we get off the bus, if you would please, just stay kind of right up here, toward the front of the bus, right up here, guys. Please don't go off the macadam. Stay off the grass, and if we encounter any wildlife, you can take pictures, just don't interfere with them, okay? Come on out, guys.
We get to go off. Sorry for the shaky camera, guys.
But I can home as a condo. I'm trying to figure out where the condo is for the water because I didn't want to see it. And it is right across from the water, so usually I see the shells that way. And
That's nice.
yeah, it was the condo I lived in when I was little, so I don't really live there, but she still has it. So
That's nice.
yeah, it is. Yes, ma'am. My mom actually used to work here when I was little. Yes, ma'am. But this still all seems new.
Those are some big doors. Very big doors. Each door is 400 and something feet.
Well, we got a picture.
Look at our fancy bus.
Battery?
Yeah. That it did. Sorry. That's where they're building the Artemis 2 rocket in those big gray doors. Supposedly they are 458 And that American flag is the biggest hand-painted American flag in the world. The blue part is the size of an NBA basketball court, and the stars are 6 feet across each. 6 feet each. I'm gonna stop this stream, guys, and I'll be back to you in a little bit.